Top 10 predictions for 2018. So what will 2018 bring? Let's take a look at 2017 and try and make some predictions. I'll be ranking them in order of likelihood.
Nothing has changed.
Number 10. There won't be another UK election this year. Okay, so a lot of analysts predict that there will be another election within the coming year, as Theresa May is weak and Brexit could stall. But I'm sceptical. The Conservatives don't want to lose power. Theresa May would have to resign mid-negotiations, then hold another leadership contest, and we still have a deadline that most people in Parliament want to see the end of. If we fail before the deadline, we don't have a chance of securing any kind of deal with the EU, which means a no deal. And let's not forget, most of Parliament wanted us to remain anyway. So they definitely wouldn't want a hard Brexit, WTO rules, and no deal would produce. Yes, an election could give Labour a chance, but not if they are seen to induce it mid-negotiations and cause chaos by the public. To take on negotiations is already fraught and politically suicidal. Instead, it seems more logical to let Theresa May take the beating and then clean up the mess afterwards. But I could be wrong on this one, so I'm giving this a 50% chance.
Meghan Markle celebrating her first royal Christmas.
Number 9. The public will see through the gloss of Prince Harry's wedding and Trump's visit. Both events are strategically placed to provide a distraction from Brexit. Both events are out of the public's control, but you can guarantee both events will be hounded on by the media. In the case of Prince Harry, the Royalists versus the Republicans. In the case of Trump, the right versus the left. Both events raise the debate about where the establishment lies and what its purpose is. If things aren't going well for the public, they might prove to be a catalyst for yet another shake-up in our special relationship or our monarchy.
Ahead of World Cup 2018, a tournament which Russia says it will host as planned, in spite of the resignation of Sepp Blatter as FIFA president amid a major corruption scandal.
Number 8. There's some scandal around the World Cup waiting to happen. So Russia and FIFA are synonymous with the word scandal and corruption these days. The head of the World Cup organising committee, Vitaly Mutko, has just stepped down after being cited in a series of reports about the country's doping regime. Then you have to take into account all the allegations of WikiLeaks hacks and fake news on Facebook to sway people to vote for Trump and Brexit. Could Russia have bribed their way into hosting the World Cup in the first place? Have they already decided a winner? Is their team doping heavily? Are they using the games for another political and international advantage? Who knows? But I'm suspicious.
Sorry.
How much will they cost?
They will cost... It will cost about £80 million.
Number 7. The Labour Party's popularity will fade. So when Corbyn gained seats in the election this year, there was a huge amount of optimism as he did better than expected in his campaign. But, and here's a big but, he didn't win the election. That meant that doubt about him could seep in. Granted, among his party he is a much stronger authority than Theresa May now seems among her party, but the Labour Party has been dropping behind the Conservatives recently in some polls. Could it be that the Labour Party's voting against most Brexit bills in Parliament is working against a Brexit voting country? Is the images of Diane Abbott getting her maths wrong hindering the Labour Party's image? Or is there a much wider disagreement with leftist politics worldwide? Either way, a future Labour election campaign would have to face all of these battles and more. So assuming it's easy for them is making a huge assumption.
We have already invested almost £700 million in Brexit preparations. And today I am setting aside over the next 2 years another £3 billion.
Number 6. The UK will get worse before it gets better. Okay, sorry to depress you guys, but this is a prediction I made before the election this year and it still holds up. Why? Well, because Brexit is going to take until March 2019 at the earliest, and that's not including the transition period, another election, and potential economic uncertainty in the medium term. How bad it gets really depends on the deal we get from Brexit, how much the public and politicians agree, and how the markets react to it all. Why do I think it will get better? Well, even if you're not a Brexiteer, the prospect of watching things fall apart is likely to create a much more agreeable politics in the future, where politicians agree to disagree at the sake of getting on with Brexit and striking a result that is best for the country as a whole, even if it's a no deal. But do I think the divisions between Remainers and Leavers, hard Brexiteers and soft Brexiteers will ever fully be rectified? No, I don't.
What the government will not do is allow Parliament to debate and vote in the event of no deal. So we would just, if there's no deal, fall off the cliff edge, fall into what we called World Trade Organization tariffs, which would mean an extra 10% on the cars that we make in places like Sunderland and export into the rest of the EU. That hard Brexit, in my opinion, would be exceptionally bad for our country, and we should be able to vote and debate that before we did such a thing in Parliament.
Number 5. We're heading for what some would describe as a soft Brexit. So a recent video I made showed the way in which Parliament is increasingly voting more and more against the government in key Brexit bills. The government now has to take the Brexit deal they get back to Parliament to be agreed on. Given that most MPs voted Remain in the referendum, I'd expect them to vote against things like no access to the single market, for example. Furthermore, the Labour Party so far has voted against the government along with the SNPs, Lib Dems and others. I'd expect that to continue from these parties in the hope of securing another election. If they try that, but aren't successful, it would make whatever Brexit we get more agreeable to those mainly Remainer parties, and therefore less anti-immigration, anti-EU, etc.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury.
Number 4. North Korea will anger America. So 2017 saw North Korea making some very close call nuclear missile strikes around Japan and a threat to the island Guam. Donald Trump said any nuclear attack by North Korea would be met with fire and fury. And to top it all off, we have a Winter Olympics coming up in South Korea. So do I think a nuclear apocalypse is likely? No, but I feel that something disastrous will happen to cause tension in the area again. I don't think we're far off a military base or ship being attacked, but I can see it going further than a small-scale strikes or harsh words. A full-blown war for either nation would be harmful, economically and internationally. But if Trump did do it, I mean no doubt he'd go all out, like he did when he dropped the mother of all bombs on ISIS this year.
Obviously we'd been in discussion with the Conservative Party right throughout, and we'd asked for the text on a number of occasions, to be told that there was no text at that particular occasion. We spoke on Sunday evening, didn't have text, and the text landed with us on late Monday morning. Now that left us in a very difficult position. We had to look at the text, we had to try and understand what the ramifications of the text was. And when we had a chance to do that, we realised that in no way could we sign up to that text, because essentially it was making a red line down the Irish Sea.
Number 3. The Brexit deal won't be agreed this year. I'm sorry guys, but this one's fairly obvious. It took 9 months just to trigger Article 50, a further few months with an election in between to start negotiations. The deadline for ending Phase 1 was supposed to be October, but it ended up being December. Then Northern Ireland disagreed with it, then it had to be renegotiated before being agreed. Now Theresa May has until March 2019 to negotiate a trade deal, agree a trade deal, get the EU to agree on that trade deal, get the UK Parliament to agree the trade deal and amend what they want, take the amendments back to the EU, renegotiate the amendments, agree a second trade deal, take that to Parliament, get Parliament to agree, and get the EU to finally agree. That's a lot to do for a huge trade deal in not many months. Plus, it's assuming only 2 potential deals. There could be at least 10 potentially nitty-gritty bits that cause tension on either side and mean failing to strike a deal. Of course, it could go all wrong and Theresa May could strike a no deal at any point, but I don't think she has the authority among her party to do that.
For a week now, Harvey Weinstein's been a shock, a scandal over there. But tonight, he's a police matter over here.
Number 2, 2018 will make it easier to offend women. So 2017 saw the likes of Harvey Weinstein accused of sexual assault, Kevin Spacey accused of sexual assault on a child, and that in turn created a scandal in Westminster. The Me Too hashtag highlighted the extent of sexual assault. Then in Doctor Who we had a female doctor announced, a move criticised by the anti-feminists of making Doctor Who have a deliberate feminist agenda. Now a movement of people defending the actions of people that could be concluded as sexist, misogynistic or sexual assault has risen. Their argument is that men must be allowed to be men and therefore have an opinion and attract the opposite sex. But this year has highlighted the extent to which women feel threatened. Therefore society will protect women from that threat, making it easier for guys to be flagged up on their wrongful actions. This is only a good thing in my opinion. Number 1. There will be at least one Islamic terrorist attack in Western Europe this year. 2017 saw 5, according to Wikipedia, terrorist attacks in the UK alone. Whilst there were many more prevented, and we are winning the war against ISIS in Syria and Iraq, it doesn't stop homegrown terrorism. It's fairly obvious then that this will happen at some point. I believe it will more likely involve a small group of innocent people, a lone wolf, low technology attack, and cause the same pattern of events we're used to seeing now. Transport disruption, a few raids, a vigil, and arguments about whether enough is being done. But what is increasing is how much less these are being regarded as acts of war that people care about, and more regarded as heinous organised crime that can be ignored. So, do you agree with my list? What's your prediction for the year? Be sure to subscribe and comment.